Okay, I'm here with Waterford FC manager John Coleman. John, how are you first of all?
I'm good, yeah. Bit of a cough, bit of a tickly cough.
It's going around apparently. Now, God knows when this will go out, but at the time of recording it's going around,
Yeah.
so hopefully it's cleared up. I suppose the best place to start, John, with this is how are you settling into Waterford and how do you like it here in Waterford?
I love it at Waterford. Couldn't have been made to feel any more welcome than what we have. The club really looked after us when we came. Not much too much trouble. Settled us in really well in the house and the car and what have you. And then getting introduced to the staff. Well, we haven't got a big staff, but we've got a good quality staff. We've got great training facilities. And the most important thing for me is we've got the base of a really good set of lads. So people who want to play for the club, people who want to give their all. There's no egos. There's no big time Charlies. Everyone wants to work hard. We've translated that onto the pitch. I think the fans can see how hard the players are working. We try and get as much information as we can to them during the training sessions, and they're taking that on board. And I think, we're starting to play more attacking football. We're starting to threaten more, get more balls in the box. And you need a little bit of luck along the way, but as regards to being here, 3.5 weeks, it couldn't have gone any smoother for me. Well, it could have gone smoother. We wouldn't have conceded silly goals against Shamrock. But it couldn't have gone any better for me and from that respect, and I'm hoping it gets better.
You seem to be really enjoying the city itself, Waterford itself, outside of the football club.
Yeah, it's a lovely part of the world, isn't it? I was fortunate enough to spend some time when I'm in Sligo. Right. And Sligo is a lovely place. I've still got some really good friends there. So I'd like to think I'll make some really good friends over there. Obviously living in Trevor, it's a lovely place, right by the beach, and not just that beach, but several stunning beaches within easy driving distance. It's quite laid back. You can go for a stroll, and it's quite peaceful. But I think there's a willingness for us to do well. People are, when you speak to people, they're happy to have a chat, and they're interested in how the club's going. And I think, the locals are taking more notice of the football team, which is good.
Yeah, you came in and really hit the ground running, and I don't know, to be honest with you, if people would have seen that coming. We were on the back of probably our worst losing streak since I think 2007. And but you really seem to come in from the outside looking in, or from the inside of the outside looking in. You seem to come in with a plan and a vision and implemented it quite quickly.
Yeah, well, Matt had done a good job of steadying the ship and getting 3 wins. I think we rode our luck in the last 2 wins of them 3. And we had to change the way we played. And that's no disrespect to what Matt was doing, because he got results. But we felt as though if we played too deep or we didn't attack as much, we were going to be susceptible to a sucker punch eventually. And so we had to get out more. We had to get higher up the pitch, which we have done. Our average positions is a lot higher when you look at them than what they have been throughout the season. And the players have adapted well to the training sessions. We've got information on it. It's a bit of a change for them, but we're passing the ball with more confidence and we're making more chances. And, on another day, we'd be unbeaten and we certainly would have won against St. Pat's. And we certainly should have got something against Shamrock. But you're always susceptible to the bounce of a ball or a mistake. Be it, a mistake by me, a mistake by one of the players, a mistake by an official. A bounce of the ball, which I think probably 2 of them culminated in their Shamrock's second goal. But it's how you react to that, and I think we've responded really well to any adversity that we've come up with since I've been here. And I know I've only been here 3 games, but we had a good goal when we went 2-1 down against Shamrock, and we certainly had a great goal when we went 2-1 down against St. Pat.
Yeah, myself and yourself had a chat a few weeks ago now, outside the club shop, and something you said to me really stood out, and I hope you don't mind me repeating it on the podcast, but you said you'd rather, I'm paraphrasing, but you said something like, I'd rather lose a game trying to win it than lose it trying to draw or just not lose by more goals.
Yeah, 100%. Every game I've played in my life, I've set out to win, both as a player and a manager. And I'd always go and try and get the 3 points. I'd risk 1 point to get 3. I'd never ever sit on a point. And you know, I made this comment last week in the pre-match interviews. You know, whether a point that you've gained on the road is a good point is something that you should be looking back at, not looking forward to. So, you know, after the game on Friday, I was relieved that we didn't get beat because we were losing at the time, or for big periods of the game. But on the balance of the game, I was disappointed that we didn't win it for what we had going for us. And that'll always be the case. I'll always go to win games, and then you can look back and reflect and say, well, okay, that's another point. But I'd never ever set out to just get points because you don't progress up the league enough if you just keep drawing. This league, it's a very demanding league. It's a great league, and the vibrancy is there for everyone to see. It's a great time to be involved in Irish football. And I really enjoyed my time last time when I was at Sligo. I was only here for a short spell, but I had the taste of Europe as well. But I think the standard of player is improved over here, I think, because they're staying here rather than going to England, or not rushing to England, should I say. Which I think has helped the league. But it's quite tight, the league. I think anybody can beat anybody. So you should never ever pass up the chance to get 3 points. And because it's, you know, only a 10-team league, you can quickly either go one way or the other. You can quickly climb the table or you can quickly slide down the table. And that gives you a heart that if you can get on a run, no matter when you're in the season, you can be successful. And if you look at St. Patrick's last season, you know, if the season has gone on under 2 weeks, there's probably won the league.
Yeah.
And that's the type of run that we've got to aspire to get to.
Yeah, and I think like I'm in a unique perspective. Like I host this podcast. Obviously, I work for the club and the commercial manager, but I host a local radio show here as well, WLR, the Saturday Sports Pod. So I'm in a unique position that I hear all your post-match interviews outside of the club because I play them on the show. And the thing that stood out to me immediately last Saturday was, you know, you were disappointed with a draw away to St. Pat's, which I loved so much because I think if you had gone back only a few weeks ago and someone had said to one of us, we'll draw away to St. Pat's, we probably would have took the hand and all off you. But whereas, having watched the game obviously on Friday night and heard your own comments, I think we were a better team against St. Pat's, and Pat's were tipped to win the league this year.
Yeah, I mean, if you lower your own expectations and you set yourself up for a fall and you're accepting mediocrity, we've always got to be striving to be the very best version of ourselves as we can, both us as staff and as players. I know we're getting a great backing off the supporters. They've been absolutely magnificent. They were fantastic in Dublin the other night. Really, really good. And I was pleased to see the smiling faces at the end of the game, that we got something out of the game that we deserved. But you owe it to the fans, 100% you owe it to the fans to give everything you've got. But I'll never ever let any of my players or myself or any of my staff settle for mediocrity. And that's just the way I've been built throughout the years. You don't always get the success. You know, it's easy to say if you want it enough, you get it. That's a load of nonsense. You know, there was no one wanted to be a professional footballer more than me, and I didn't make the grades. I ended up playing semi-pro. But if you work hard at something and you don't achieve it, you can be proud of the work that you've put in. And that's what I've said to the players. You know, if you can look me in the eye, and more importantly, you can look your teammates in the eye when you walk in at the end of the game, no matter what the result is, you've got nothing to worry about. You know you're going to get better.
Yeah. Like it's, to me, the contrast in the few weeks, and it's no disrespect to Matt or even to Keith either, because obviously everyone is trying their best, has their own philosophies, but the stark contrast on the pitch and the kind of atmosphere just around in general, even running through the supporters, which I am one myself, is just night and day, in as you said, in just 3 weeks. What is the plan going forward, do you think? What's the aim, if I could be so bold as to ask? What's the aim for the season, do you think now?
I asked the same question when I spoke to the owners, you know, about 4 weeks ago. I know what my aim is, and my aim is to make a charge at Europe. Whether we do that or not is a different matter. I know what the thrill of Europe is. I know what the feeling of the thrill of Europe is. I also know that if you're going to be successful in Irish football, you've got to play in European football, because that releases the funds
Yeah.
to help you to strengthen. And you've only got to look at Droghed's rise to prominence from last year to this year on the back of the European money that they guaranteed. I've always said this, I've said this even since when I was last at Sligo. To be successful in Ireland, you've got to play in Europe. To play in Europe, you've got to be successful. What comes first? Yeah. And, you know, the big thing is we've got to try and get into Europe. That's the sum. My ambition. We've got to get into Europe if we're going to be successful. And I want to be successful. And I believe Waterford is a good enough club with good enough facilities to be successful. Not only do we want to get into Europe, we've got to stay into Europe. We've got to stay in Europe. So that's a longer term approach. So the short term approach, I think we had to get away from the relegation zone, which was already getting done before I came. You know, a mid-term approach is to solidify ourselves where we're in a chance with the last 7 or 8 games that we can have a right tilt at it. And that's not going to be easy because there's plenty of other teams who have got the same that eye on the same prize. You know, you won't get many leagues that offer up so many places for so few teams. And so we've desperately got to try and get into that mix. Yeah,
look, we flirted a bit at last year. I think there was a lot of talk when we were coming up to the mid-season break now. And, you know, I think heading towards that last year, it almost looked a certainty that Waterford would play in Europe this year. It didn't happen, of course, but it almost feels like this season has turned on its head and it looks the other way, whereas we started off quite poorly and now we're making a charge. But as you say yourself, John, it's only a 10-team league and 4 of them are going to get Europe, you know. I just want to talk about a couple of players, which I don't usually do, but obviously you don't get a chance to talk to the manager all the time. What's it like being reunited with Padraig Hammond? Like, I mean, you brought him to Accrington Stanley, and it's a relatively long time ago. Is there a big difference in him? What way are you seeing him?
He's slimmer and he's fitter.
Wow.
Great lads. It's as if I've never been away from him. And that's a testament to how good he is as a character. He'll tell you, the last time I spoke to him, I was nearly fighting with him because we played Newport and we had to win the league. We had a couple of safety nets, so it wasn't the be all and end all. If we didn't win that, we had another 3 games that we could win it, you know. So, but we went there to win the league. A couple of my family had travelled all the way to Newport, and Newport were on a bad run, so we were top of the league. We were nailed on to win it, you know. And I think Pod scored, and we got beat 2-1. And I had to go with him at the end of the game. I said, "You haven't tried a leg for 3 games, you." I said, and then you play against us, the champions elect, and you'll have a go. I was messing with him right there, but and I did apologise to him in a text the next day, but I don't think he took it too well. But he's everything you want as a lad, as a footballer, and as a captain, and as a centre forward. I was, you know, obviously I managed this season with Gillingham in England.
Yeah.
And I was doing some scouting for Paul Cook at Chesterfield, along with Danny. He could certainly hold his own still, even despite his age in England. No problem at all. He's so clever. He's always thinking about the game. I'm surprised he sleeps.
Yeah.
Because he always thinks about the game. And it's always for the betterment of the team. And when you've got that as your captain, you couldn't ask for anything more.
Yeah, even if you watch him play, especially when you see it on the TV, because you're able to see obviously close up rather than sitting from the stand, he's anticipating seemingly where the ball is going to go, and he's able to tell his teammates where to go. He's almost coaching from the pitch, it seems like.
He is, and he's got such an influence on the team. We had a little bit of a joke on when I did the team talk on Friday, and I said, you know, come on, everyone's got to be pushing together. We've got to be, you know, even the ones who aren't playing, even the ones who are coming to train and to help us do the shape and all that. I said, no one's place is set in stone, apart from Podges. So I think they had a laugh over that. But
yeah.
No, he's always trying to be better. He's always trying to get the team to be better. And probably since I've been here, or since I've been watching, second half, he was on the edge of the game. He couldn't really get into the game enough, and I've been winding him up all week saying, you should have come on Friday, you'd have loved it. And he takes it in good spirit.
Yeah.
You know, he's saying that's the first game I've missed in 10 years. But he takes it in good spirit, so he knows his levels. He knows his levels are so high, his standards are so high, that he can, when I'm sort of messing about with him, he can understand that. He knows when he's not firing. And Well, he still played well on Friday, but I know there's better in him, and he's shown that time and time again.
Something else that's standing out to me the last few games as well is Grant Horton at right full. He's almost Cafu-like with a lot of the things he's doing. Is Grant playing there out of necessity, or is it that he's just looking more and more a right wing back?
He's looked comfortable there.
Yeah.
Again, I was joking when I'm in training today. He said I'm a winger now.
Yeah.
And then I offered him the number 10 shirt. But no, he's well known. He's took to the position really well. He's starting to understand what we expect of him. And again, you know, I'll go back to average positions. If you look at Grant's average position when he's played wing back earlier on in the season, it would have been in his own half. His average position now is in the other opposition's half. And that's testament to the way we want to play, and he's taken that on board.
Yeah, no, I think, like, again, since you've come on board, there's been so many lads who've stepped up and changed the way they'd been playing, and it's just something that stood out to me the last 3 games is Grant is just a new man almost in that position. James Olayinka as well, really grabbing that midfield, that number 8 by the horns.
Yeah, you know, James, I've seen James play before, and I was intrigued to work with him as well. And if certain things fall in his place, and he gets a little bit physically stronger, the world could be his oyster. You know, he could certainly go to, you know, a big club.
Yeah.
If he does it right, he's a good player. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He's a good character. For the first 2 weeks, we didn't know what his name was because Danny kept on calling him Yinks. Someone's calling him Links. I was trying to call him James or Jimmy. And then Danny said we should call him Ollie. But no, he's a good player, and we've got a good balance there at the moment. And it's frustrating for the lads who feel as though they're on the outside looking in because, you know, we've got a settled side. The first game I didn't make a sub.
Yeah, that's right.
And, you know, lads are desperate to get into that side. And no one's closed off from the team at all. You've got to work hard. You've got to work hard to get into the team, and you've got to work even harder to stay in the team. So we've got a good balance in that midfield. We've got a good balance in the forward line. And that's not to say that other ones won't come in or the players who we've got now can't challenge, because they can. You know, we've had an enforced change with Big Casper, you know, being out injured, which was a blow for us. But the lads have adapted to that. And I think going forward, I think we'll have to strengthen the squad, because I think injuries have took its toll on us.
Yeah.
I think if we had all the injured players back now, all fully fit, I don't think we'd have to make too many reinforcements in the window. As it stands now, we're not sure whether we will get them all back. So we probably have to make 2 or 3.
That saves my next question. I didn't want to get into too much specifics because obviously, listen, things have to be planned, and you know, you can't put everything out there, but you are looking to strengthen in the window coming up because it's quite soon.
Yeah, so, you know, we've been doing a lot of homework ourselves, looking at players, feeling people out, and, you know, speaking to people. And ultimately, it's got to be a good fit for Waterford. The one thing that we've got to do is we've got to sign players who are going to improve us. Not going to sign stocking fellas who just there to make the numbers up. And they've got to enhance the personality of the squad, which is absolutely fantastic at the moment. So there certainly won't be any bad eggs coming into the squad. And
that's another great point as well. Obviously, you were scouting before you came here as well, so you got a great eye for a player, obviously. How important is that? Because we've got a really, from dealing with the squad, it's a really nice group of lads, very personable. It seemed to all be in it together. How important is it to keep it that way? And adversely, how dangerous is it to get someone coming in who might rock that boat?
Well, yeah, that is. But that's why you do your own work on people, you know, and you don't just speak to 1 or 2 people about them. You get a good reference on them. You get good background on them. It's funny because I did my final course, I did the diploma of football management, and then the postgrad to that is strategic leadership. And one of the topics that you go on is about managing the actual feeling around the club. And there's a term used called country club management, and it's when you go over the edge where you want things to be nice and they want them to be happy, and you want everything to be rosy at the expense of the business, which is, you know, the team doesn't perform well because there's not enough conflict in there. So you've got to get the balance right between having a good set of lads who you can enjoy their company, but you still have to have the edge that they're not too good, they're too nice, they're not after you, Claude, and letting someone go past them. They've got to have that fight, that determination, that spirit, that aggression. And you've got to have that as well as them being good lads. Now, one of the things I've prided myself on, I've been managing 27, 28 years, the bulk of them with me former assistant Jimmy Bell. And one of the things that we've prided ourselves on is that we've had a lot of players, and we'd like to think we've improved a lot of players, both as footballers and men, you know, as people. And I think sometimes that can get lost in your duty as a manager. You know, you're not just a coach. You're not just trying to improve them. You know, you've got to get better people, and better people, you know, hungry people who've got a desire and a good work ethic will ultimately be the type of player that you need to progress. Particularly when you look at the money that gets spent by the Dublin clubs. So we haven't got that, and we're not going to pretend that we have got that. So then you can be rich in wages or money, or you can be rich in heart and desire. Could anyone say that we haven't got the richest team in heart and desire in the Irish League at the moment? I couldn't see anyone who wants it more than us at the moment.
I would agree with you, and it's reflective in the fan base as well. You know, I was doing a shoot yesterday up in Virgin Media Television in Dublin, who also coincidentally carry all the League of Ireland games that are broadcast nationally, and they were asking me all about the club, and I was saying, you know, you're too Dublin centric, you need to come down with the cameras more often to us, give us a bit more of a profile nationally and stuff like that, and they were agreeing. But like, they had commented on the travelling support that we had on Friday night up in St. Pat's, because they were there with the cameras and stuff like that. Some of the producers cross over, and they were arguing to me that we have the best travelling support in the country. That, you know, it's just the noise, the flags that were displayed beforehand. Yeah. It's just I'm part of the fan base, but if I can beat our own drum, I think we're just a tremendous fan base.
They are, and it gives you a lump in your throat when you see how far people travel. Don't forget, it's times of austerity, isn't it? Yeah. You know, it's not as though money grows on trees, and you know, not only are they giving up the time, which is a very valuable commodity, but they're giving up their own day and pay. You know, to travel, to pay the travel costs, to pay for the ticket, you know, to buy the flags, to buy the scarves, to buy the shirts. And so, you know, when you see them travelling, and they're being great at home as well, you know, so I honestly can't knock them. My first game over here, myself and Danny, we came to watch the Shelbourne game. Mm-hmm. And the fans there were magnificent. It was great that we won the game, obviously. Yeah. But the fans there, you know, you could see how much it meant to them. And you know, that gave me heart before he even started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, it's just, there's just such a great feeling around at the moment. I think it's very it's just lovely to be around. But just talk to me a little bit about your time at Sligo when you were, like, I think it was 10 or 11 years ago. Yeah. The league has changed so much.
It has and it hasn't, but I mean, the grounds haven't changed.
Yeah, well, the ground, that's but I just mean, like, at the moment, it's like in 2014, for example, it wouldn't have been fashionable, if you like to use that word, to follow the League of Ireland. Yeah. Whereas now, it really is the in thing. It's in Dublin especially, it's the kind of hipster thing to do, but it's around the country. There's more and more people supporting their local teams. Yes, of course, we all have teams in England that we follow and stuff, Scotland, maybe even abroad, but it's really, really an in thing now and the done thing to go down and support your local team. Yeah,
and I think that's got to be healthy for Irish football. I mean, yeah, the big difference for me is the buzz that's around it at the moment. So obviously the buzz on the TV, the buzz on the radio, the papers, to a lesser extent, but still there. And the fact that, I mean, maybe Brexit played a part in this, but the fact that there's not as many youngsters going over to England, and they're not getting snapped up straight away. Obviously, you know, if they're good enough, like English players will go abroad, like, you know, St. Alexander-Arnold going to Arsenal, to going to Madrid. But, you know, we can have them good players playing in the league. And what would be really special for me is if we can grow some players of our own. So if we can have a pathway through from the academy, the 20s, right through to the first team. So I went to watch the under-20s play against Bohemians on Saturday. Really good, entertaining game. Really, two teams going for it. Really enjoyed the game. Unfortunately, we lost 2-1. And then I managed to get over to watch the mini tournament with 6 teams, the under-14s. So Sligo, Waterford, UCD, Bohemians, Cork and Shelbourne. So it was a really entertaining tournament, you know, and I managed to get the last 2 games of that. And I think we've got a good academy. Myself and Murph went to the coaches' workshop on Monday night. And you can see how much it means to them that they want to bring players through as well, but they've got to have the pathway.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think there's nothing better than having a couple of local lads playing for you and giving it all, because the fans just wanted them even more.
Yeah, it was commented about in certain online communities and stuff like that, when obviously people were searching for answers as to what was going wrong at the start of the season. It was thrown out there by some people, you know, we don't have enough, we don't have any, whatever it is, local lads in the first team. You know, there is previous players, there's no point in me naming names, we all know who I'm talking about, listeners of the podcast will know. But there is certain players, like, not to throw any specific names out there, but people like young Bobby Keown, 15 years of age. His dad, Bobby, as well, I know quite well, went to school together, was an amazing player. But like, to see kids like that age, that are coming through our academies, that are already like making the bench for a senior team, it's amazing to see.
Well, it's great, and it's great to get them training with us, and that's one of the things I'm very, very big on. You know, they've got to be around the first team. They've got to know what the demands are to play in the first team, to be a professional footballer. They've got to get used to the pressure that comes with that as well, and they've got to feel comfortable in that lifestyle as well. And then, you know, they have a chance to shine when they train with us. And it's great to see them, to be honest. Like, and we've got some good little players there, you know, some big players as well, to be honest. But we've got some good young lads, and, you know, obviously with the connection with Fleetwood as well, you know, it can be a two-way process where it can benefit Fleetwood as well. I'd like to see 2 or 3 homegrown players in our first team, you know, within the next couple of years. Yeah,
it's definitely something that I think within Waterford, we've always had Waterford-born players coming through the sides, always over the years. So it's definitely something that I think it means a lot to local people.
Well, we've got a good catchment area, haven't we? And
yeah.
So we should exploit that catchment area. You know, if there's a good young kid, I had this conversation, you know, before I came, and I've had it since with Mike with the academy. Yeah. You know, in order to have a successful academy and a successful under 20 team, or getting players into the first team, they've got to be good players coming in at a young age. Now, what we don't want is the best 13-year-olds, the best 12-year-olds to be going to Dublin.
Yeah,
we want them playing for us, playing the pre-academy and then going into the academy, and knowing that there's a pathway through to the first team. So it's not good at them coming if they think, well, when I get to 18, I just get cast aside, or I go somewhere else, or I try and find my way at a first division club. No. We want to show them that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and the best way of doing that is by keeping them round, yeah, and then looking and see if they are good enough. We won't play them as a token, you know. We won't play token local players just because you've got to play a local player. But if they're good enough, they'll certainly play, and it's something that is really important to me. That if we can get them in locally, I think it's just a great feel-good factor for the town and for the people and the parents and everyone, you know, because if you get a youngster through into the first team, so, you know, you're using Bobby McKeown as an example. Mm-hmm. How many people will you know in the area? You know, the network spreads, doesn't it? Yeah. You know, so his parents, friends, his parents' family, his mates at school, his mates at school's family. And all of a sudden, it grows to about 100 people. Yeah. Now you get 2 or 3 and then they integrate, and all of a sudden it's 1,000 people who've got an interest, a local interest, in a club that they mightn't have had. And so that's not the reason why, but that's certainly one of the benefits. The big thing for me is the pride in the shirt, the pride in the badge. And when a local person sees a local person playing for them, it gives them an extra thrill. I know myself as a Liverpool fan, when I see Liverpool players playing, you know. Yeah. And I think probably that's the reason why there's been such a furore with St Alexander-Arnold, because he is local. Yeah, we may as well talk about it. We've brought it up twice now, and it's a really good segue into it as well. And it is a football podcast at the end of the day. What are your personal feelings around it? I think he's done unbelievably well for the club, and I think he should have been cheered off the pitch, which he was at the end. He was on Sunday, yeah. Which he was at the end, but he should never have got booed coming on. And that's my own opinion, you know, and people who pay their hard-earned money will feel they're entitled to their opinion as well. But Liverpool Football Club, the fans have... Other people put them on a pedestal. and we accept that pedestal that we are knowledgeable fans who don't get after their own players. And you very, very rarely hear booing in Anfield. That's why it was a big surprise for me. He's given 20 years of his life to the club, won everything he could possibly win with Liverpool Football Club. And I think he deserves a send-off. And, you know, the odds are he will come back with Real Madrid. I hope he gets a decent reception when he comes back. I've seen lots of Liverpool players, because I was going to the game when I was like 10, 11, my brother used to take me. And I remember Joey Jones coming back, getting a massive, great reception. I remember Peter Coleman coming back and getting a great reception. And I think, you know, he's earned the right to be, you know, not so much a legend, but he's earned the right to be an iconic figure at Liverpool Football Club, being a local lad who's made good, give everything to the club. And I hope he does really well at Real Madrid, but not at the expense of Liverpool.
Well, that's the key part, isn't it? I think from my own understanding of it, the reception on Sunday was kind of the point's been made now. Let's give him the send off, and wish him well. How do you think he'll do at Real Madrid?
I think he'll do well. In my opinion, you know, I think too much has been made about it. People say, he can't defend. He can defend, but you'd like him to be better defending, but we'd all like to be better at what we do. I regard him, in my own opinion, I think he's the best passer of the ball in the world.
Yeah.
Doesn't get everyone right, but it's a high percentage of right. If you'd equated him to an Olympic diver, his degree of difficulty that he pulls off time and time again is off the graph. You know, he came on there on
he was incredible.
Sunday and made 3 or 4 like unbelievable. I think Jürgen turned around and went, "Wow, what a pass!"
Yeah.
And I said exactly the same watching on the telly. And I think that's his forte. I think he'll be playing in a team that doesn't have to defend as much as what Liverpool do. And I hope his passing ability really shines through.
Yeah, I think he'll be a superstar over there myself personally. Obviously, look, you've managed here before, but through a short term. But is the change from going from, say, Liverpool to Ireland a little bit easier, do you think, because of it's almost the 33rd county over there?
I think it's a little bit easier for me. Again, you know, there is a strong connection with Liverpool and Ireland. You know, that's a given, isn't it? I think everybody of us, everyone in Liverpool is either third generation or fourth generation, definitely.
Yeah.
You know, I know my grandmother, I think, was half Irish, and we have got relatives, you know, from different counties. I just think my own personal circumstances, I'm a lot older. Well, I say a lot older, 10, 11 years older. Feel about 30 years older. No, I'm older. I think I'm a little bit wiser. I'm certainly not as hot-headed as I was when I came last time. I think I've learned to try and control what I can control. I've been looking through the emails that we get sent through about the bookings, and we haven't had a member of staff booked this season, which I'm proud of. Wow. And I hope that remains till the end of the season. And I just think I think I'm better equipped this time around. I'm not going into it as blind as what I did, and I wasn't going in totally blind because I had Paul Cook's experiences to draw on.
Sure.
You know, so I could speak to him a lot about it. We got made to feel. I still get made to feel incredibly welcome at Sligo. I'm really looking forward to going back there after the break. And I've still got 4 or 5 really good friends over there who come over and see us in England on a regular basis. So I'm looking forward to meeting up with them. I've been over to watch Sligo quite a few times. I went last year and got a good reception there. Mightn't get as good one this time, being manager of Waterford. But no, I just think now is the time to be managing Irish football. And I think, you know, we're in a club that can challenge. On the outside looking in, we mightn't look like a club that can challenge. But I think people are starting to wake up and see we've got good players.
Yeah.
And more importantly, we've got good players who want to give everything. And when you players want to give everything, you're halfway there. I'm
always wondering from the outside looking in what it seems like, because I often ask newer players, whether it's on the podcast or it's interviewing them in the hospitality lounge at half time or before the game. Like you mentioned yourself and Danny came over to watch a game before you settled in here and all that kind of stuff. What is the first impressions of the club? Because the facilities there, like you mentioned, the arena and all that kind of stuff, it just seems like everything is prepped and primed there for success.
Oh, you couldn't get better facilities if you tried. I think the big thing from the coaching staff's point of view is that, getting permanent officers at the training grounds was a big plus. We can do a lot of work in there, and we do spend a lot of time in there, which is good. We've got lads who want to work hard. Every day there's a conversation about trying to win the game at the end of the week. We're not marking time. We're not just putting drills on for the sake of them. Everything is geared towards being a success at the end of the week. The amount of conversations we've had over minor details, like free kicks, throw-ins, corners, it's like 2-hour discussions, and we all love it. We all love putting our input in and trying to get better and trying to find ways to get better. And I think when you've got a lot of people on the same wavelength, pulling the same direction, this is something that I want to get across to everybody at Waterford. Anyone could feel as though they're doing the slightest job, and they're not. Everyone should feel valued. We have young lads who come in and help us with the shape, because we haven't got 20 fit outfield players. So they help us with the shape the day before the game or 2 days before the game. Now, they should take credit if you win the game at the weekend, because they have had an input. People who are selling merchandise are having an input. People who are cleaning the stadium, cleaning the toilets, whatever you want to do, commercial side of it, the admin side of it, everything that has to be done in order to get us onto the pitch on a match day should be appreciated, and it's not just the players and the staff, and then the fans who pay their hard-earned money. So everybody is pulling in the right direction at the moment, and that's what it feels like. There's no dissenting voices. There's no one trying to be awkward. Everyone's trying to get the very, very best, maximising what we've got. And we haven't got a great deal of budget to play with, but we've got great facilities, and we've got great people who are working for the club, who are trying to get every last drop. Now, I've experienced this before with success. I've had that with Accrington-Stanley when we had the lowest budget in the league and we're finishing above Luton and Coventry, which, it just shouldn't happen, but it did. And we did that because that was the thing that I hammered home. You can define riches in any way you want, but I'd sooner have rich hearts than rich pockets.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's coming across, because as I said, like, you came in, you hit the ground running, and everyone has seen the difference. Something that just jumped out to me there, you were speaking about Accrington-Stanley, and like, listen, we could go there, but the podcast is probably not long enough. But Accrington-Stanley drew Liverpool in the FA Cup last year. That must have been an amazing thing for you to stand by and watch.
It was like getting hit with a sledgehammer in my face when the draw came out. Well, 25 years we've been waiting for it.
Yeah.
And I truth be known, it was weird, because I was at the Marina Dalglish Christmas function. So Kenny Dalglish was there, Alan Hansen, Jon Molby, Gary Gillespie, lots of Alan Kennedy, lots of the old players, Ronnie Whelan. And I just thought it was fitting that at that time the draw came out while we were there.
Oh, wow.
While we were there, and I was annoyed, not annoyed. It was gut-wrenching to think, I've been there for that long and I've always wanted that, and I missed out. And then the next morning, I laughed at the irony of it, and when I did phone the current manager and wished him, congratulating him on it. And he echoed me. He said, one of my first things was I was made up and then I was sick, because how long you've waited for it, myself and Jimmy, both Liverpool supporters. And then, I found it quite funny, the irony of it, really. And funny enough, as the game was getting played, I was supposed to do the TV. We then got the Gillingham job, myself and Jimmy, so we were supposed to play our first game and it got called off. We couldn't get back to the game in time. So, So
Some things are just not meant to be.
it is, but you know, I mean, they put a good account of themselves.
They did. It was a great game. It was a great occasion. You could tell that there was just so many stories running through and stuff like that. It was a lovely game.
And they earned a lot of money out of it. So you know, that I think it went well for all parties, and you know, when you look back at it now, you've got to be pleased for them.
Yeah. I suppose it's time to probably start wrapping up. I don't want to hold you here all day. As I said, I probably could. But, I mean, do you really feel like the sky's the limit necessarily, but you're really in a position now where things can just go to plan, go as you're planning?
Well, I've got a blank canvas at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And it's funny because a couple of people have said to me that you won't hear it now because there's a croak in my voice and I've got that cough. But my wife said to me, she said, when you got the opportunity to come back to Ireland, I could see it in your eyes, see the spark in your eyes. I could hear it in your voice. And a lot of my friends have said, since they've been speaking to me, you sound like a totally different person. You sound alive, vibrant, excited. And I've always been like that about football, to be honest. But they're saying that there's an added spark that, you know, probably the thrill of Ireland is the law that's made me come here. And my missus has seen it in my expressions. So, as I said before, I've loved football all my life. I have the standard joke with my wife that I've been married for 43 seasons. And when you're out of football, you miss the daily interaction with the players, but you miss the stress of playing games. You're missing the fight, the challenge. And I just think getting back to Ireland in a club that I think is forward thinking for sure, you know, speaking to the owners as well. I think we have got a blank canvas here, myself and Danny, and we have got a chance to do something, and it'd be great to reward the Waterford fans with European football. That is ultimately what I'd love to do.
Well, I think I can speak on behalf of the Waterford fans and say that everyone is behind you 100%, and we all look forward to seeing what the second half of the season is going to look like.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sean.
Cheers.